Turn to Proverbs 22. Now, I know today is not Proverbs Day. In my mind this morning, it was a Proverbs Day. But I think it's because I focused on this proverb earlier this week and it came to mind this morning. So it seemed good to preach it. We may have another from 22 next week, or perhaps we'll move on to 23. But for today, Proverbs 22, and our text will be verse 1. As normal, I will read a portion of this chapter, 1 to 21. In fact, let's read to the end because I especially want you to focus on that last verse, though I won't preach it. Proverbs 22. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. The rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the froward. He that doth keep his soul shall be far from him. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he will not depart from it. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. He that soweth iniquity shall reap vanity, and the rod of his anger shall fail. He that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. Cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. He that loveth pureness of heart, for the grace of his lips the king shall be his friend. The eyes of the Lord preserve knowledge, and he overthroweth the words of the transgressor. The slothful man saith, There is a lion without. I shall be slain in the streets. The mouth of strange women is a deep pit. He that is abhorred of the Lord shall fall therein. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. Bow down thine ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart unto my knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if thou keep them within thee. They shall withal be fitted in thy lips. That thy trust may be in the Lord, I have made known to thee this day, even to thee. Have not I written to thee excellent things and counsels and knowledge, that I might make thee know the certainty of the words of truth, that thou mightest answer the words of truth to them that send unto thee? Rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate, for the Lord will plead their cause, and spoil the soul of those that spoiled them. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Be not thou one of them that strike hands, or of them that are sureties for debts. If thou hast nothing to pay, why should he take away thy bed from under thee? Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Proverbs 22, verse 1. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. This text lays before us a comparison of two things: a good name and favor, loving favor, on the one side, and on the other side, riches, silver, and gold. I don't need to explain these at length. The meaning is fairly clear, but just to make sure, do you understand what we're looking at? You know what riches and silver and gold are, but what is a good name? A good name means you're spoken well of. When men say your name, it comes with a smile, with a sense of honor, with praise. They say, oh, that man is a good man. It's a reputation, as we say, that is good. This loving favor, then, I take as a consequence of it, that when you have a good name, people are favorable toward you, and they have a love toward you. They say, ah, yes, that man is good, and I trust him, and I will serve him. I'll give him favor. It seems to be focusing first on the favor of men. However, to the Christian, what matters most is the favor of God, is a good name before God and favor with him. And that's where we should always be driven. So we could say reputation versus riches, a name versus gold and silver. It's better to have the one than to have the other. Now, the more important question is why. This proverb's given to us to make us think. Why is this true? I'll give you 5 reasons. 5 reasons why reputation is better than riches. And the first is because moral things are better than physical things. Riches have their place. They're needed for earthly life. But we're told by Christ, Matthew 6:33, to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And that word righteousness especially proves to us that moral things are better than physical things. He calls food and clothing, which we could describe as riches, at least they're purchased with riches, as things that are secondary. What's more important is that you be part of God's kingdom and serve him in that kingdom in a righteous way. It is more important that you be upright than that you be wealthy, because the moral is better than the physical. Second, a good name is closer to spiritual things than physical things are, than wealth is. We're told, Colossians 3, to set our mind on things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand. This means not just things moral, but things spiritual, salvation, praise, honor. We are to ascend to heaven, but a name has more to do with heaven than riches do. Because a name is a blessing from God, though riches are too. But it's a blessing that is more spiritual because it has more to do with the things of God. This is closely connected to what I just said, that the moral is better than the physical. Third reason is from the conscience. The 2 things I've just said, the priority of the moral and of the spiritual, are affirmed on the inside of man's heart by his conscience. You've probably experienced this. It feels nice to have money. You have power to do things. You can buy things you like. But what would you rather have? A full bank account or a good conscience knowing that you've done right? I hope it's a better conscience. Most people who make the other choice find out that they chose wrong. It's better to have a good conscience. But what contributes better to the conscience? Money or a good name? Now, it's possible for certain men to think ill of you and your conscience to be clear. But typically, the way men think about you and the way you think of yourself are intimately connected. And if men have good reason to think ill of you, then you'll likely think ill of yourself. And you won't be able to live with yourself. And all your money won't be able to help you. It's the conscience. The 4th reason that a good name and favor is better than riches and gold and silver is that the first is the source of the second. In this life, having a good name is essential for earning money. Now, it is possible, and some wicked men do make money by doing evil. They appeal to other sinful men as a way to gain their money. But typically that doesn't last long. The safe, solid, and proven way to doing well in this life is by having a good name. People do not call a workman to come and work on their house, their plumbing or whatever, unless they trust him. And they can't trust him if he doesn't have a good name, if he's not proven to be reliable. and upright and honest. A good name is typically the source of those physical things. So if you lose the good name, you'll likely lose your riches too. But then, fifth, and from our text directly, a good name is the source of loving favor, which is to be preferred above all gold and silver. When you have a good name with God, then He delights in you. If you have a good name with men, that is, good men, then you have the joy of fellowship with men, which is as but a step from fellowship with God, because it's a proof to our conscience we have fellowship with God. When we can say with the psalm, how good and how pleasant it is when brethren dwell together in unity. So the good name is the source of loving favor. Riches might win you temporary favor, but a good name is what makes good friends. So these 5 reasons, underlining what our text has said, that a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold. This all comes together and can be summed up in our doctrine that Christians ought to seek and cultivate a good name. That is the practical thrust of this text. Christians ought to seek and cultivate a good name. A good name is good, and it's to be chosen actively. That's what our text says. I want to bring you just to one other place this morning to prove this. Let's go to 1 Timothy 3. 1 Timothy 3, verse 2. This is speaking of a bishop, which is another word for elder. The bishop then must be blameless. It goes on to say the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, etc. He must be blameless. This is what I want to focus on. To have blame means to be morally stained so that men look and say, that's not a good man. And they're right. That is not to be true of the bishop. Why? Because first, it's wrong. And also second, because the bishop is to be a model to other Christians. The elder needs to be an example. His life needs to teach before even his mouth does. And therefore, if the elder is to be above reproach, who else is to be above reproach? All of you. All the people after him. He is a model for them. But look at verse 7. It says more. Moreover, he must have a good report. The elder must have a good report, not just blameless in himself, but a good report. Now, what we understand is this cannot mean a good report among ungodly men for ungodly reasons, because ungodly men will speak well of other ungodly men. Nor does it fail to recognize that sometimes ungodly men will give a bad name to good men for bad reasons. But it nonetheless says he must have a good report, and then it explains of them which are without. That is, even of those outside the church. What does this mean? That a good man's character, a man morally qualified to serve in the eldership, among the elders, must have a character that is so clear and evident that even a non-Christian can see it. That he appears to be a good man because he is. And the appearance is so clear that other men can see it. Powerful statement that he must have a good name. And we could underline the same in Titus chapter 1 concerning the blamelessness of an elder. And that elder then, as a model for Christians, underlines the fact that we must seek this. Well, let's move on to application. Having seen that Christians ought to seek and cultivate a good name, I would ask you, in light of our text, first, by way of examination, what do you prefer? A good name or riches? What would you rather have if I could offer you only one right now? Only one. You can be well thought of by God and men, or you can have money and be able to do whatever you want with it. What would you prefer? This is a good test of your heart. That is what verse 1 is putting before you. And it's clear if you're to pass the test, you need to choose a good name. It's more moral. It's more spiritual. It's closer to heaven. It suits your conscience. The good name is the source of all physical things. It's the source of loving favor, which you ought to want. For these reasons, I would exhort you, but you need to first be honest with yourself. And I warn you in this, 1 Timothy 6 is clear. The love of money is the root of all evil. If you love money over a good name, and especially over what brings a good name, namely righteousness, then you're to be pitied. I want you to know yourself, boys. It should be your chief desire that you would be known as a godly young man rather than a rich young man. So first, examination. Second, exhortation in two parts, positive and negative. It's your duty, so you must seek it. And the safest way to seek a good name is by doing the things that deserve a good name. What makes you think well of men? Is it not when they are upright, godly, honorable, trustworthy? Go and do likewise. You need to do the things that will bring a good name. Verse 4 of the same chapter, 22, leads us in the same direction. It says that riches and honor in life come from certain things. Honor, particularly, is a good name. And what are they? By humility and the fear of the Lord. So I exhort you to be humble, to fear God, to keep his commandments, seek a good name. But then on the other side, negatively, you need to flee an evil name. And what brings an evil name? Well, it's wickedness. It's doing things that make people look at you and say, oh, that's a bad man. Now, men can judge wrongly. You need to test men's thoughts about you by God's thoughts shown in the Word. But nonetheless, as 1 Timothy 3, verse 7 told us, even unbelievers have some wisdom in this matter, and you should at least use unbelieving outside witnesses as a help to you in discerning this, because even they have consciences, and even they have some sense of who's a good man and who's a bad. And so I exhort you to flee things that would make you stink, even before wicked men. Things that would not only make you stink, but would make the name of Christ stink, because you bear the name of Christ by your profession and by your baptism. It should be abhorrent to you that you would go around and others would look and say, that Christian child is not acting Christian. Flee that which would remove a good name and give you an evil name. The third and final application is that of comfort. Because the fact is, a good name is often lost by good men, not by their own fault. Christ prepared us for this when he spoke to us in Matthew 5. He said in verse 10, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake. And in verse 11, blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you and say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Christ is promising here that good men will be hated by bad men precisely because they are good. And this is where you need to be careful, not merely to test yourself by other men, because men can be wrong. In the day that you are reviled, when men say, "That's a wicked boy," but it's not true. In fact, they call you wicked precisely because you've been doing good and they just don't like it. They're showing their hatred of God by hating you because you are like God. If that's the case, then know it in your conscience and rejoice. That's what Christ says. Blessed are ye. Therefore, verse 12, rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. We can put this another way. Because in losing your name, you are in the way of having your name made great. Why? Because in heaven, in heaven, you will have a good name. You have to be willing on this earth sometimes not to have a good name, even when you should. And be content in your conscience you've done all you can to keep a good name, knowing that God will vindicate you. And he will clear your name on that last day. He'll say, that is my servant, and I am pleased with him. He has a good name with me, and if that's true, you can be content. Let's stand, boys, and pray.